name is Dr. Rick Seguil.
And action. Hey, Jay had a... This is Kirk again.
And action. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick. And Jen had a question about the side effects from the 5-day fast. Usually foods are made up of macronutrients are carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. So all that stuff turns into glucose and some extra stuff, especially the sugars gets chopped down. But the glucose turns into a fuel source. So when you have this sudden surge of glucose that happens a couple times a day, it produces an insulin surge too. Glucose can be utilized as fuel by all the cells in your body, especially the brain and muscle, but you have to have insulin secreted by the pancreas also floating around the bloodstream. So the locking key, the glucose is here, the insulin's here, it can go into the cell now. Surge of glucose equals surge of insulin. Surge of insulin and glucose means energy. That's cool. But if you have too big of a surge, the insulin side effects will yield tremor, irritability, meaning mood change, headaches, nausea, abdominal pain, poor sleep, fast heartbeat, even sweating, a dry mouth. These are all the symptoms of fight or flight. If you suddenly tell the brain that I'm not going to have this anymore, no more, just this, it changes around the metabolism, starvation that it's produced, sends the cells messages, kill off old cells, and all the old cells die, and then the new cells are going quiescent or quiet. And then suddenly after the fast is over, when you start refeeding with healthy food, those new cells that are going quiet, they suddenly get food and they blossom. It's like culling all the bad seeds out of your plant nursery and then it's growing a really good seed. So that is what happens, and that includes cancer cells. You get rid of cancer cells, which are bad cells, old cells, and you have nothing but non-cancer. So the idea is when you go through a fast and you move all this stuff away, you might end up with symptoms. Now, if you go to water-only fast, the chances are higher you're going to go through a massive withdrawal from coffee, caffeine if you're used to it, sugars if you're used to it, carbohydrates if you're used to it, because those things cause an immediate surge in the body, just like cocaine, amphetamines. So those are so powerful that if you don't have them for a short time, your body says, hey, what's going on? And then it goes through fight or flight. Everything that Jenny went through. The majority of people just go through a little crabbiness. Then some of them just tap out on the third day, say, screw this. Because it is tough. After going through massive US standard American diet stuff and you go switch over, you will have the side effects because your brain tissue, your heart, your muscles are not used to getting this kind of fuel source. The end result of fat is ketones, beta-hydroxybutyrate, BHB. So the fat gets broken down into ketones. Ketones turns out immediate energy. Sometimes you have to have carnitine around, but immediate energy, no insulin at all. But guess where the fat is? The fat is in here. The fat is in your tummy, visceral fat, the inflammatory fat, in your butt. So there is a lot of fat there, but some people cannot access that fat because they're so used to using this fuel. And if the body is used to just storing fat, it's certainly not going to be used to burning fat. It's going to be used to burning carbohydrate. So if you make the rapid switch over to ketogenic diet, you're going to have withdrawal, fight or flight. If you make the rapid switch to a water-only fast, you're going to have the withdrawal, fight or flight. So bottom line is the first fast mimicking diet, maybe the second, you will go through a rocky transition. Unless, if you're going to withdraw or expect to withdraw from going from carb to no carb at all or very low carb, my suggestion is you try to load up, preload with beta-hydroxybutyrate and your usual diet about a week before you're going to commit. But it is salty tasting. That's what beta-hydroxybutyrate is. It's ketone salts. There's also ketone esters that I heard that taste very bad. However, it gets you into high ketosis really quick, but it's too expensive. You don't guarantee you're going to go into a ketosis state, but I think it'll nudge the body into tasting a little bit of ketosis. So if you are trying to get ready for your fast mimicking diet 5-day, or introduction with your regular, hopefully healthy diet of a little beta-hydroxybutyrate in the morning, a little beta-hydroxybutyrate at night, theoretically should start to send signals to the brain, hey, there's another fuel source around. why not try to start digesting fat? You should always be eating healthy, but try to add in some form of beta-hydroxybutyrate, whether it's powder or capsules. I use Perfect Keto capsules or ZOO powder, and that's been my favorite. You can also start using MCT oil instead of your creamer in your coffee if you use it for that. I use MCT oil powder. I'll put a link down below to my video on unboxing. And then when it does hit your 5-day routine, I would still say keep on with the beta-hydroxybutyrate. I think it's helpful. And then maybe taper off. When you're finished the 5-day, you can probably finish everything else. Jenny else had a question. If I'm finished with the 5-day and I don't want to go back to it, what do I do? Well, we should all move away from standard American diet because it just sucks. It's got this country into a high blood pressure crisis, a heart attack crisis, a cancer crisis, and now a COVID crisis. This is restrictive eating. There's 3 types of restrictive eating. There's time-restricted feeding, there's dietary restrictions, and then there's caloric restrictions. So calorie is what I talk about in my video. Check it out. If you take the FMD, the Prolon box for its face value, about 1,000 calories of food on the first day and 750 calories on the second to the 5th days, and that's it. There's other things that work with that and low residual food in that work, but if you just want to take it for its face value in this form and you want to calculate the calories. Go 1,000 calories and 750 calories and you're done. Now don't make it 1,000 calories of cheesecake. It has to be low residual. So salad, broth, soups, very little carbohydrate noodles. So that's one way. Another option, moving into what you're going to do after 5 days, time-restricted feeding. So as I mentioned, TDC. Time-restricted feeding is when you pick a time period and you just eat during a time period. I usually go from 12 noon to 8 p.m. So Monday I started my fast. I'm on day 4 today of my cheaper FMD. And I did a blood test while I was fasting in the morning at like 8 o'clock. And my beta-hydroxybutyrate level was okay. I've got my levels up to 1.4, I believe, with full-blown fast preloading with beta-hydroxybutyrate capsules. 0.6 is okay. Out of nowhere, that means that just with one day, a standard day of my fast in the morning, I'm already hitting a little bit of ketosis. My body is adapted. It's called fat adapted. That means I can switch from either fuel source without having the fight or flight stimulus. So that's the beauty of trying to preload or get your body used to this as a fuel instead of that always being a dominant fuel. Last thing I'll mention is the dietary restrictions. So that is like choosing veganism, choosing paleo, choosing ketosis, choosing a Mediterranean diet, choosing a DASH diet. Those are all the dietary restrictions, which there's an abundant amount of different diets. I happen to be a vegan and I happen to be an intermittent faster. So I take 2 of these. And then on certain days, 5 days a month, I'll take 3 of these all together. We should all be doing 1. It'd be better if you did 2. If you can do all 3, awesome. TDC, that's what you should wind up with. If you don't know, get a coach to teach you. Otherwise, Jan, don't be too remiss. That's a common side effect. I don't care what anybody says. I bet you'll do better the second time. But bottom line is, that tells me that the body, the brain is really dependent on carbs. So hang in there, everybody else. If you've had ways to avoid the fight or flight detox, then put them down below. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you at the next video.